It's 11 p.m. and these are the headlines. President Abdelmajid Tebboune ordered the National Order of Merit rank Al-Ashir to Minister of Housing, Urban Planning and the City, Mohammed Tariq Bil-Aribi, in recognition of his efforts in advancing this vital sector. President of the Republic presided over a cabinet meeting devoted to a draft law regulating mining activities, measures related to new retirement procedures for national education teachers, and other representations related to other sectors. As part of his official visit to Lebanon as a special envoy of the President of the Republic, Minister of Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf held a series of meetings, notably with the President of the Republic of Lebanon, during which he reaffirmed Algeria's constant support to the brotherly country. And with the aim to diversifying its partnerships within the construction field, Algeria signed an agreement with the American Concrete Institute. And in the province of Guelma, 85 cyclists representing 15 teams took part in the first phase of the International Competition Tour of Algeria 2025. Welcome back, everyone. First of all, President Abdelmajid Tebboune, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, presided over a cabinet meeting. The agenda includes a draft law regulating mining activities, measures to support women victims of violence, and new retirement procedures for national education teachers, and the status of sports teams and elite sports. After the Prime Minister presented a report on the government's activities over the past 2 weeks, and the ministers delivered their statements on draft laws and presentations, President Abdelmajid Tebboune issued the following directives. On the implementation of approved investment projects, the President instructed the government to proceed with the execution of approved investment projects with rational spending, ensuring compliance with the directives issued and adherence to project deadlines. Regarding the draft law on mining activities, the Cabinet approved the draft law, taking into account specific guidelines, including President Tebboun's emphasis on the strategic importance of the mining sector for the state and the need to provide modern tools for its development and oversight. The President directed the introduction of technological solutions and the elimination of bureaucratic hurdles in exploration and exploitation processes, highlighting Algeria's potential in mining, in particular in marble extraction. He ordered the preparation of a comprehensive strategy to enhance investment in this sector through more in-depth studies that ensure sustainability for future generations. The President also mandated the temporary exclusion of rare earth elements from investment, preserving them as a national resource for future generations. On the progress report of the digitization process, President Tebboune ordered an immediate investigative committee to be dispatched to the Postal and Electronic Communications Regulatory Authority to address the obstruction of licensing for digitization equipment intended for the High Commission for Digitization. He instructed prioritizing digitization efforts, focusing on sectors with economic and financial significance, as well as public and private real estate, considering them strategic areas linked to the national sovereignty. The President stressed that digitization is part of the broader reform process, requiring precise and updated statistics for transparent and well-informed decision-making. On mechanism for supporting women victims of violence, the President reaffirmed the importance of protecting women in all sectors and roles, emphasizing their growing influence across various fields. He tasked the Minister of Justice, the Minister of National Solidarity, Family and Women's Affairs, and the Prime Minister with coordinating efforts to establish additional legal mechanisms to enhance women's protection to the fullest extent. Regarding team sports and elite sports, President Tebboune instructed the restructuring of Algerian handball based on scientifically sound and modern approach, involving experts including foreign specialists. He affirmed the state's readiness to provide financial and logistical support to restore Algerian handball standing. On the new retirement measures for national education teachers, the President ordered reducing the retirement age by 3 years for all teachers in the education sector, acknowledging their essential role in shaping future generations. General directives now Now, President Tebboune instructed the Minister of Transport to implement a 24-hour operational system at key economic ports, Jinjin, Algiers, Bujaya, Annaba, Arwan and Mustaganem, and this before the end of the month. This measure aims to boost economic activity and reduce excessive costs for ships awaiting docking. He also ordered the extension of maternity leave for all mothers from the current 3.5 months to 5 months. The Cabinet meeting concluded with the approval of individual decrees and decisions concerning appointments and dismissals from senior state positions. President Abdelmajid Tebboune awarded the National Merit rank of Al-Ashir to Minister of Housing, Urban Planning and the City, Mohammed Tariq Bilaribi, in recognition of his efforts in advancing this vital sector. The ceremony took place at the Muradia Palace in the presence of the Prime Minister, the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, the Secretary General of the Presidency, as well as several presidential advisors and government members.
برعاية وإشراف من السيد عبد المجيد تبون رئيس الجمهورية صدر مصف الاستحقاق الوطني، تنعقد هذه الجلسة الاحتفائية لمنح وسام بدرجة 10 من المصف لأحد أعضاء الحكومة مكافأة عما أبان عنه من كفاءة في تسيير القطاع المسند إليه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عملا بالمرسوم الرئاسي رقم 2570 المؤرخ في 9 فبراير 2025 يسدي السيد عبد المجيد تبون رئيس الجمهورية الجزائرية صدر مصف الاستحقاق الوطني وسام بدرجة 10 من مصف الاستحقاق الوطني للسيد محمد طارق بالعريبي وزير السكن والعمران والمدينة، نظير جهوده البناءة في الاهتمام بهذا القطاع الحيوي وتطبيق السياسة المنتهجة في إطار الجزائر الجديدة لتمكين المواطن من الاستفادة من السكن المحترم اللائق به، فمزيدا من النجاحات الموفقة والإسهام في التنمية الوطنية، والله الموفق والمعين.
Now the news, and as part of his official visit as a special envoy of the President of the Republic, Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Community and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, was received on Sunday by the President of the Lebanese Republic, Joseph Aoun. During the meeting, the Minister of State delivered a written letter from President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune to the President of the Lebanese Republic, which contained official invitation to visit Algeria and conveyed the President's fraternal greetings and renewed his congratulations on President Aoun's election, wishing him success in his esteemed responsibilities as well. Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Community and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, congratulated on behalf of the President of the Republic, the President of the Lebanese Republic, for the formation of the new Lebanese government, reaffirming Algeria's support and solidarity towards Lebanon. Let's have a listen.
شكرا. أنا جد مسرور شخصيا بهذا اللقاء.
I'm personally very honored with this meeting. I've held talks with the President of the Republic of Lebanon. President Joseph Aoun granted me a meeting which I'm very proud of as a special envoy of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, who instructed me to hand him a written letter within the framework of the ongoing support of Algeria to Lebanon in all circumstances. On behalf of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, I would like to congratulate once again the President of the Republic of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, for his election and the finalization of the procedures of forming a Lebanese government, wishing him, in the name of Algeria, more success. Lebanon, as everyone knows, is going through a delicate phase in its history, marked by the reinforcement of Lebanese institutions, the economic relaunch, and the consolidation of security. And on these steps, Algeria could only stand by the side of Lebanon. We've evoked with the President the bilateral relations, and he was clear upon the necessity of their revitalization. We've also discussed the participation of Algeria within the Security Council and his disposal in accompanying Lebanon when it comes to all questions that concerns it at the level of this council. We've indicated the upcoming Arab events as well and the importance of coordination and regular consultation between Algeria and Lebanon so as to contribute to the success of these events.
Always with the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Committee on African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, who was received on Sunday in Beirut by Lebanese Speaker of the Parliament, Nabi Berri. During the meeting, Minister Attaf congratulated the Lebanese Speaker of the Parliament on the formation of the new Lebanese government, reiterating Algeria's steadfast support for Lebanon as it embarks on a new phase focused on strengthening stability, achieving peace and promoting economic development. The two sides also reviewed the various dimensions of bilateral relations and discussed ways and means to activate the mechanism provided by parliamentary diplomacy to support efforts aimed at further strengthening cooperation between the two nations. State Minister Ahmed Attaf was received today always by Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam as part of his visit as a special envoy of President Abdelmajid Tebboune. During the meeting, Minister Attaf renewed his heartfelt congratulations to Prime Minister Nawaf Salam on his appointment and the official formation of the new Lebanese government, wishing him success in fulfilling the responsibilities entrusted to him. Algeria's solidarity was also affirmed, as well as its readiness to continue offering all forms of support during the crucial and decisive phase in the country's history. On the bilateral front, the meeting provided an opportunity to discuss ways to implement the mutual desire of both countries to strengthen their relations and expand areas of cooperation. Moreover, it was agreed to accelerate the activation of the Joint Governmental Committee and promote interaction between business leaders and economic operators through the Joint Business Council. At the end of his official visit to Lebanon, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Committee on African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, paid a courtesy visit to Prime Minister Najib Mikati, head of the outgoing government handling current affairs. During the meeting, Attaf commended Mikati for his successful management of the transitional government and praised his commitment to strengthening consultation and cooperation between Algeria and Lebanon during that period. For his part, Mikati extended his fraternal greetings to President Abdelmajid Tebboune and expressed his deep appreciation for Algeria's unwavering support for Lebanon, both on a bilateral level and through its role as an Arab member of the UNSC. Algeria has welcomed the conclusions of the joint summit between the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community on the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It fully supports the unanimous call for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire and an end to military hostilities in eastern DRC. Algeria expressed hope that the wisdom demonstrated during the summit and the sense of responsibility that guided its proceedings will pave the way for genuine and credible dialogue under the newly unified Nairobi-Luanda process. This initiative aims to restore peace, security and stability in the DRC and the broader Great Lakes region. As part of the A3+ group of African representatives on the UNSC, Algeria reaffirmed its commitment to supporting and reinforcing international efforts to advance this unified peace process, seeking just, lasting and peaceful resolution to the conflict in the DRC. Migration has dominated the news of French media, especially with the latest guidelines of the French Interior Minister regarding the regulation of foreigners in an irregular situation in the country. A story evoked to cover up the failures of the system with extreme policies used to distract from the real economic and social problems the country is facing. Rania Al-Bahri explains it all.
In France, immigration remains a key issue for the far right for decades. Foreigners, particularly Muslims, have been blamed for all problems. The strategy of stigmatization aims to create fear and distract from the real political, economic and social crisis affecting the country. The far right in France, which has long used immigration as a political tool, now wants to challenge the right to citizenship by calling for the removal of automatic French nationality for children born to foreign parents on French soil.
ils essayent de faire un amalgame entre les questions d'immigration et les
They are trying to link immigration issues with identity issues. I remind you that in France, 20 million of our fellow citizens have at least grandparents who was foreigner. In my case, I have the Belgian and Italian ancestors. You know how they were treated with violence and discrimination. Some were even killed and there were massacres. Xenophobes have always existed, and those who say that immigration was better before are people who haven't looked at history.
The recent instructions from the French Minister of Interior about handling illegal migrants in France have sparked strong controversy. These guidelines, considered very harsh, reflect the growing influence of far-right ideas, which spared hateful and racist rhetoric against minorities, especially Muslims. The situation highlights the rise of a more xenophobic policy.
Depuis 2018, les acquisitions
Since 2018, the number of nationality acquisitions in Mayotte has halved, yet migration continues to increase even from outside the region. This clearly shows that the main factor driving migration is economic, not the desire to acquire nationality. To address this, rather than focusing on irrelevant issues, we should ensure quality infrastructure and resources in Mayotte, just like any other French department. Additionally, we must recognize that Mayotte's status as French department gives it a regional role.
The ideology of rejection contributes to a toxic climate in France, where foreigners are often blamed and become the main target of the far right and its media supporters. This worrying trend shows a desire to control not only political opponents but also personal thoughts and beliefs.
L'islamisme, les frères musulmans, etc.
Ah, ça me fait peur, moi, oui.
I have already noticed that you come out with a lot of words like these that scare Islamic and the Muslim Brotherhood. But in order to fight Islamism, I do not prevent mothers who accompany their children on school trips from wearing the hijab. This is not the way to fight Islamism. It is a personal conviction that I hear and understand. And in fact, my point of view is not to tell everyone who listens to me and everyone who sees me to support my wearing the hijab.
In the face of the excesses of the French far right, the question of protecting individual freedoms becomes urgent in a country dealing with multi-dimensional crises.
Numerous African nations, including Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire, are yet asserting their sovereignty by breaking from France's neo-colonial influence and redefining their political and economic relations. Najaf Tayyar.
Seldom recorded acts more treacherous than those of France committed in its African colonies. Even after these countries' independence, France's influence did not wane. On the contrary, through carefully crafted strategies, France ensured the continuation of its economic and political control, not as a form of cooperation but as means to exploit the wealth of the people. This neo-colonial project persisted for decades, extending domination far beyond the colonial era. I'm not naive because I'm aware that they are there, that they're trading very discreetly with the authorities, and that they've adopted the ostrich policy. And it's because of this lie and this stigmatization that young people in Africa wish for their presence. The simple truth is that over the last 10 years or so, the French army and European weapons have not been able to eliminate the terrorist movements. That's a result of their mistakes in the region. Even after their independence, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire and several other African countries, their resources were yet controlled by France, who further exercised cultural and social influence. And relying on ruling elites aligned with its interests, it has implemented a well-structured strategy to preserve its dominance. Additionally, its military bases have allowed for swift interventions, further consolidating its grip on the region. In Mali and Burkina Faso, even the political takeovers sometimes seem less contested than the military presence of certain European countries. Some even see it as regaining sovereignty. We're hanging on and we're going to stay there, but by dint of not having a policy that seems a little further ahead than tomorrow, France is in a situation where it's constantly being pushed out.
Over time, the African elites have asserted themselves, determined to free themselves from the influence of France and its allies, thus completing their process of independence. France must stop considering, for example, controlling the votes of around 14 to 15 African countries at the United Nations General Assembly, which is of major importance for France's structure. From now on, we have to go down the multilateral route. We have to start with win-win trade agreements, and we have to remember that there is no longer one Africa. There are sovereign, autonomous African countries. As Africans strive to establish relationships that protect their interests and uphold their sovereignty, they have come to realize that France, without their wealth, is no longer the great power that they once feared. On the other hand, and forced to withdraw its forces from several African countries, France has opened the door to redefining relations on a more equal footing, particularly in economic matters.
Back to Algeria now. Algeria, which has been diversifying its partnerships to strengthen its economy, relies on the exchange of knowledge and technologies between its partners. Therefore, the National Authority for Technical Control of Construction and the American Concrete Institute agreed to transfer expertise in engineering and construction. Rania Al-Bahri reports.
With global quality and high standards, Algeria is progressing towards achieving its housing programs and an integrated vision that has positioned it as a regional model in the field of construction and development.
Our country has made remarkable progress in housing and development, becoming a model at the regional level. This is demonstrated by the state's efforts in building, monitoring and distributing over 1.7 million housing units in various forms during the 2020-2024 five-year plan, as well as overseeing the completion of major infrastructure projects and other public facilities.
To enhance the skills of those involved in building residential developments, Algeria is working to increase its participation, exchange experiences, and learn about the latest engineering and construction techniques, particularly through collaboration between the National Authority for Technical Control of Construction and the American Concrete Institute.
These two-day study will allow the authority engineers, the sector engineers and Algerian engineers in general to benefit from the expertise of the 120-year-old Concrete Institute.
This conference is a marvelous opportunity for ACI, the American Concrete Institute, to share with our host, our very welcoming and generous host, CTC, knowledge and expertise about concrete construction here in Algeria.
After successfully building 1.7 million housing units, Algeria now sets its sight on the next challenge, aiming for higher standards in global quality and designed to complete 2 million new housing units.
Spanish MP Ana Miranda of the Galician Nationalist Bloc has filed a complaint with the European Commission over Morocco's expulsion of Spanish journalists from Western Sahara, condemning it as an attempt to silence international media reporting on human rights violations in the occupied territory. In a statement on social media, Miranda expressed solidarity with the newspaper journalist Francisco Carrion, who was denied entry to the occupied city of Dakhla. Spanish media have recently reported multiple expulsions, which Reporters Without Borders describes it as an information black hole due to Morocco's tight policy and military control. In Morocco, precisely in Marrakesh, several manifestations were carried to denounce the worsening economic situation endured by numerous Moroccans, the high cost of living and the Makhzen's policy marked by the involvement of high state figures in corruption affairs. The manifestations also denounced the ongoing arbitrary arrests and violation perpetrated against human rights activists. The General Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, underlined the necessity to pursue the pressure for permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. In his message published on social media, the UN Secretary-General reaffirmed that a sovereign Palestinian state is the only durable solution to the conflict between Palestine and the Zionist entity. As the Gaza Strip has been ravaged by Israel's genocidal aggression for more than 15 months, claiming the lives of more than 8,000 martyrs, mostly women and children. And for today, 2 Palestinians, including a pregnant woman of 8 months, have been fell martyrs due to Zionist attacks in the occupied West Bank. This coincides with the introduction of dozens of Zionist settlers in the courtyard of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the occupied city of Al-Quds under the protection of occupation forces. Still with the Middle East, and as an urgent summit of Arab countries related to the Palestinian cause will be held on the 27th of the current month in Cairo. The event was convened at the request of the Palestinian state after high-level consultations with Arab countries with an aim to discuss the latest developments related to the Palestinian cause. In the first stage of the 25th edition of the Tour of Cycling in Algeria 2025, the Algerian Hamza Yassin and among 85 riders from other nationalities claimed victory at the 103-kilometer road starting from Galma to Constantine, while wearing the four colors yellow, green, red and blue, despite the pressure from the Eritrean team. More details with Najah Tayar.
The 25th edition of the Tour of Cycling in Algeria, TAC 2025, kicked off with an intense first stage, covering 135 kilometers from Galma to Constantine. The competition proved challenging, with riders battling not only each other, but also the strong winds that complicated their progress. Despite the difficulty, the scenic Algerian landscapes provided the cyclists with a fresh air and renewed energy as they pushed forward. From the start in Galma, the Algerian and Eritrean riders dominated the race, and several breakaway attempts shaped the competition, and Nassim Saidi launched an attack, narrowly avoiding capture, while Herbin and Grégoire also tried to break free. However, the peloton ultimately split into 2 groups as the race neared its decisive moment. This time, Hamza Yassin seized the opportunity and sprinted to victory, crossing the finish line in 2 hours, 51 minutes and 13 seconds. His win was a major boost for his team.
We did our best, we had to win today, and we did, which is great for our team's moral, confidence and management.
The second stage of the Tour of Algeria will take riders 145 kilometers from Constantine to Stif, promising another exciting day of racing.
And that was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.